people are still looking out on shore and saying, wow, that looks interesting and threatening and strange. We don't know what this is. And then, it's coming, it's going to hit you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Risk. Today, James and I have Rafi Farber with us, the economist. How you doing, Rafi? It's been a while since we talked.
Thank God I'm doing okay. Every day is hard here in Israel with everything that's going on, but I'm getting through it and doing well. Thank God.
And for those of you joining us who are interested in specific topics, just look at the bottom of the screen. Everything has timestamps in it, so you can go right to the section you're interested in. So, is it as crazy in Israel as it is in Australia right now with what's going on?
No.
No, that is
No.
just total craziness.
I mean, it depends on what metric you're talking about. We'll try and talk in code here, but here they require 3 certain things, and in Australia I think it's 2, and the third one isn't approved anywhere, and there's no evidence of anything that it does anything, and so I guess in that sense things are worse here. But in terms of how law enforcement relates to you, at least where I am, I've had some victories. They don't bother me. They know who I am. I have certain stances, and I'm kind of famous in my city now, or infamous, depending on what side of the battle you're on.
Of
So,
course, yeah,
yeah, life is difficult, especially for my kids.
I'm sure.
Um, but yeah, it could be a lot worse. And thank God I'm not in Australia.
You're mentioning law enforcement, but how is the sentiment amongst family and friends, especially friends?
Well, friends. I mean, I kind of stay with the American crowd or the English speaking crowd, even though I know Hebrew, and I don't really culturally understand Israelis that well. Some, so I was never really close with them. I was friendly with them. Now, not so much. But then again, there are certain people on the other side of this that are Israeli that I would have never been close with ever, and now we're united on this issue.
The old world wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
So tell me, would it be fair to say that political risk globally is probably the biggest economic risk out there?
Political risk. Political risk could be very dangerous, but only as a trigger. I mean, what's going on monetarily and financially is the biggest danger, because we all know where that's going to end. We just don't know exactly when, and that's what we keep saying. But every day you see a new shortage of this, shortage that. It's sort of like if you remember those videos of the 2004 tsunami that hit the Pacific. There was like a magnitude 8 earthquake, and I think it hit Thailand and all the Pacific islands. And remember these videos of these things. This was before YouTube came out, but it was like this tide that was coming in. You saw it from afar, and you're like, oh, that looks interesting. And then all of a sudden, it just keeps coming at you and coming at you, and then it's on the land, and it just keeps going and sweeping people and property into the ocean. And you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming. But it's not like it comes like in a blitzkrieg. It comes like a tsunami, and a tsunami looks kind of slow, but it's just relentless. And we see that happening with the shortages. So the biggest risk is really when this whole thing topples, and the political aspect of it could definitely be a trigger for when the financial system says enough is enough and everything topples over. So yeah, and there might be a political trigger, there might be no trigger, it might just happen. But yeah, the politicians are pretty much crazy right now, and there's no one to trust. Maybe a few governors in Florida of the
Maybe.
responsible states, but
Maybe. I don't fully trust anyone anymore.
yeah, I can cheer for the ones that seem more sane, but I can't say I trust any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I share that same sentiment with you. Trusting is a very, very difficult. It's very difficult today. You find out a little bits at a time. If you can actually trust, because things are progressively coming into focus that you would never assume would be, and it's a shame, because it's going to become. It's like that. It's like that tsunami we were just talking about. It's going to come. Comes in. It's going to be strong, and it's going to be long lasting, I think.
Yeah, I'm saying it's already coming. I mean, you can already see it offshore with the shortages and the cascades that are shutting down factories in China and in Europe, and the production keeps slowing down and prices keep rising. This is what the tsunami is, and it's not on shore yet. It's like people are still looking out on shore and saying, "Wow, that looks interesting and threatening and strange. We don't know what this is. And then, it's coming, it's going to hit you.
I had a good friend. He went to BJ's this weekend. He's like, "Oh, there's no shortages. BJ's has everything." And I'm thinking to myself, "All right, you're just so unaware of what's going on globally, and you're
Yeah.
just lucky that the one store you go to is fully stocked, probably because they have the clout and buying power, and probably we're storing stuff ahead of time."
Yeah. One shift I've noticed, I'm kind of talking colloquially here, but one shift I've noticed over the past maybe 3 weeks to a month is that I'm looking more into actual anecdotes of things that are going on in the real supply chain. Like for example, I went to a party, a get together on Thursday night. Thursday night is like the U.S. is Saturday night. Thursday night is when Israelis hang out. So Thursday night we had our a group, our hangout guys group, and one of them works at a food importer, major food importer in the north. And I asked him like what's going on, like what's going on with your supplies, how are the prices going, how are they? And he's like, he looks at me wide. He's like, Rafi, everything is collapsing. Like the stuff that we get is crap. The stuff that we get that doesn't have severe price hikes is crap, and we have to throw most of it out. And the stuff with any quality is extremely more expensive. And this is going to hit the supermarkets in maybe a few weeks to a month. I don't know the exact time he said, but it's filtering down in Israel too. And so I've noticed like I'm taking more of an interest in actual things in the supply chain that are going on to like try to like take out my binoculars and look at this tsunami that's happening, and less in terms of where is gold and silver today, and are they in a correction, or are they going to go up, are they going to that always interests me. I'm always looking at that, but now I'm focused on the actual process of this thing. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I actually started this channel, is because I love precious metals. I love looking at the price, but there's so much going on to talk about other than just the price of silver and gold. The
Yeah.
world is just so dynamic right now. So many things are happening. So so you see the supply chain issue growing worse and worse. I mean,
Yeah.
you see any hope
Yeah.
on the horizon for it?
Is there what?
Any hope on the horizon for it?
Yeah, there's always hope.
I'm glad to.
um yeah, if you want to give the hopeful view, here's the hopeful view. It's like it's not that all of a sudden we don't have the productive capacity for things. All the factories that were here before COVID, before this pandemic or whatever you want to call it, happened, it's all still there. We still have the capacity to feed everyone in the world, to feed as many people as we fed before 2020. It's all there. Maybe some of it is gone in some kind of destruction, but most of it's there. It's not a problem. What the problem is that the medium to get this supply chain moving is corrupted, and that's the money substitute supply. I mean, some people call it currency, some people call it money substitute. I call it money substitute because it's clearer. So the money substitute supply, the currency is inflated beyond the capacity for production to hide the theft anymore. I use this analogy a lot. Like if inflation is theft, and imagine like in a communist society or just in a theft society, the government steals everything you make, so you stop making things. So if inflation is a tax and taxes are theft, and that's the transitive property we believe in, therefore inflation is theft. So if they steal too much through inflation, people stop producing. That's what's happening now because they can't get paid in real money that they can use.
Yeah.
The good, I mean, the encouraging part, the hopeful part is that when this is over and the world is begging us, the gold and silver stackers, to reintroduce a real monetary medium so the supply chain can start again. It's like the car works, but the gasoline is watered down. It's not gonna move the engine. So like at a certain point, the whole global economy is going to be so desperate for a real working monetary medium that they're going to offer us anything. We're going to be able to buy a whole bunch of stuff with gold and silver just to get it out there into circulation. That's what we're supplying. We're supplying the gasoline to a car, and we're
Do you
getting
think
out the watered down crap, and we're putting in real gas.
do you think the World Bank is actually forcing the world into this situation so that they can introduce the global digital currency?
Could be. I'm less concerned with that. I don't, because I don't know, I'm not like a political guy where I imagine the minds behind all this. I'm sure there are many evil schemes going on that I couldn't even fathom, because I'm not in that world. I don't know what they're doing. I just know that they're evil. And whether they're in the World Bank or the Bank of International Settlements or whatever other international, IMF, they're all on the same team.
Yep.
So they definitely have a centralization plan, and they want to dominate everything. They want everything under their control. But once they have that, they've shot the moon. And they have once they have everything, they have nothing, because they'll impoverish everyone, and then they destroy the entire engine. They starve themselves. You can't. That's why empires collapse. You can't conquer the world. Once you conquer the world, you lose.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, that's what they're trying to do. Like every empire, humans don't change, but so let them do central bank digital currencies. That'll collapse the financial system even faster, as far as I'm concerned.
Are you saying that the internal supply chain issues in Israel are similar to that of the United States currently?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's all the same. It's the same to different degrees. Nothing's exactly the same in every country, but the same sort of stuff that we're seeing here, we're seeing in Europe, we're seeing in America. Each country has its particular what do you say, things that are worse and things that are better. I'm losing my English. But yeah, it's the same thing, because we run on a global currency system that's dollar based, and the dollar is the thing that's being poisoned. So the entire monetary system is being poisoned. You're going to see the same issues everywhere.
So, James and I were talking on Friday about the strikes at John Deere. There was one threatened with the Hollywood Union, and also one Kaiser Permanente, and speak of other strikes elsewhere. And we attributed that to potentially the cost of living increases that we've been experiencing with inflation, and how that's just driving people to need more money, and that wage pressure. So do you think that's going to grow? And do you believe that I forgot the second part of that question, but do you believe that's going to grow?
Strikes.
Strikes,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, I would imagine that goes to what you're saying about people just not wanting to work at some point.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can take this down to earth for a second. In my family, that's what's happening. My wife lost her job at the university because she didn't want to submit to certain things, and I guess that's a strike. I mean, it's the same functionally. She stopped working,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of people, especially for example in Israel. There's the third installment. A lot of people don't want to do it because they've had bad stuff happening from the second installment, and you have more people that don't want to work, or they won't submit to this anymore. So production keeps falling, but the more they push on it. I can't tell you the exact reasons why every person is striking, but it could be economic reasons. They're just not getting enough money, so why not strike? Because what's the point of working when you can't pay your bills anyway? May as well, strike and see if you can get something more. Or they don't want to be treated like they're being treated. I mean, even if you submit to what they want you to do, you're still if you didn't want to do it. I mean, I'm not talking about the people who are okay with it. That's fine. Let them do what they want. No problem with that. But the people who don't want to do it, they don't want to. They don't feel the same coming into work anymore. They feel like a subject. So they don't want to do it. So that also increases their desire to just quit and go home and do something else. So yeah, I definitely see these things. As totalitarianism grows, there's going to be more strikes. Definitely.
Do you feel the momentum could change in those who don't want to submit to to what everybody else is doing?
To the supposed upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah.
The upgrade. Exactly. Thank you.
So two things I want to say about that. Like early on in this whole process, maybe like late 2020, early 2021, I was talking to a friend of mine who's with me on this and with us, and it was like, I was trying to ask him emotionally, like, how do you stay optimistic in this? So he said basically very logically, it's like there's two sides. Okay, one side is they want to follow all the rules and do everything and be accepted, and the other side doesn't trust anyone and wants their own bodies to be themselves, to be their own. And imagine which side is gaining and which side is losing. It's not like, as this goes on, the side that doesn't trust the authorities are suddenly trusting them more. That's not happening.
Yeah, I don't think it ever
Right.
will.
Yeah. So yeah, our numbers are growing and they will grow as this gets worse. I mean, that's the balancing act of it. The only question is when will we have critical mass of people that want to do something,
Yeah,
and how bad is it going to get until we get there? So that I don't have the answer to, but inexorably, yeah, obviously we have to win because going down the other path is destruction of humanity.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what things on the economic front are you looking at? Considering, are you investing in anything?
Am I investing in anything? I'm close to fully invested. I always have some amount of cash that I keep in case there's like a liquidity event where prices collapse like they did in March 2020. So I always have a reserve of that. Um, Whether it's 20%, 30%, 40%, depends on where the prices are of the gold mining stocks that I invest in. But if we see basically a new low in the gold stock sector, yeah, I'll put a few more percent in. Right now I'm waiting. I don't know exactly what's happening with the gold sector. If we take off from here, I'll do nothing. If we go lower, I'll buy. That's basically how I trade.
Are you
Because
investing in anything besides precious metals?
besides precious metals, yeah, a little bit of oil stocks, yeah, and some oil ETFs,
Okay.
like long-term call options, that kind of thing. Small, but because I don't know exactly what's going to happen to oil when the monetary system collapses. But yeah, energy and precious metals mostly.
Yeah, my understanding is that the volume on the $120 oil calls are going up from what I read.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't do oil futures. Actually the only futures that I ever bought was the silver contract for delivery.
Yeah, you
That's
got
the
to tell
only
us
the,
all about this. What's going on? Give us an update, please.
so okay. So after a lot of wrangling, I put in basically I'm the first person in the world to ever do this through Interactive Brokers. I'm not the first person in the world to ever take delivery. I'm not taking credit for that. But for Interactive Brokers, I am. Chris Marcus of Arcadia Economics sent me this email that yeah, they're taking delivery. They're facilitating delivery, and by delivery they mean delivery of a warrant. And it's a piece of paper basically that says you own these 5 bars and they weigh this much, such and such. Now I got a call from them after like the 11th or 12th cancellation of my intent to receive on the contract. I got a call from them after bothering them about canceling my orders that if you do it one more time, we'll let you get the warrant. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing this right now. Just stay on the phone. You see, I put it in. That's it. So I get the warrant now. Good. Okay, I get the warrant. So yeah, the warrant's in my account. It's for 5,101 ounces. So because these bars are not they're not homogeneous perfectly.
Right. 1,000
Yeah.
ounce bars are not exactly 1,000 ounces. My understanding is.
Right. So that's an important point for people who want to try to do this. You need not only enough cash in your account to cover the 5,000 ounces. You need 10% more than that in case it's 5,500 ounces. It's not going to be that much, but that's the statutory limit to how much cash you need in your account. Plus, you need the margin maintenance for the actual futures contract, which I think is another $14,000 or something like that. I might be wrong on the numbers, but I don't remember. But you need a lot more than the contract is valued at in your account to take the warrant. Now I'm in the process of trying to load out, and since Interactive Brokers has never done this before, I called COMEX to their delivery department. They're like, "Oh, we don't even answer the phone for people who aren't brokers." So I'm like, okay, so what do you want me to do? They're like, oh, call this guy at Interactive Brokers. They gave me his name and his number. I've called him 3 times. He doesn't answer the phone. I've called customer service. They say they called him and told him to email me. I haven't heard anything, so I'm just gonna have to keep bothering them until I hear something.
They don't know you're all over YouTube complaining about this, do they?
Yeah. That's where I am. I suspect eventually I'll reach somebody after I'm annoying enough. But who knows? I'm trying to get it, and once we get it, I'm sending it to a retailer, and we'll see what we do then.
So we're living in a synthetic world all around, aren't we?
Yeah. Unless you have connections with the COMEX and you know people there,
Yeah.
and like or you have a broker that really has good relations with them and can get you loaded out without any hassle. I'd say it's not really worth your time. Just get a 1,000 ounce bar at some retailer and cut it yourself.
So you're obviously taking delivery in the United States.
Yeah, I'm not sending it here. That would be crazy. In order to get precious metals in Israel at any reasonable price, you got to send it through a lot. That's the southern port city, because they have this loophole there that there's no VAT there. So you ship it to a lot and then you leave it there for 3 months and then it's considered a lot's precious metals and then there's no VAT and then you have to drive down there, pick it up, and that's what I did. I mean, I did that once.
Crazy world. So we have the Bitcoin ETFs coming out this week. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's just mostly hype and it excites people who are speculating in Bitcoin. But it has nothing to do with Bitcoin as money. It's not going to increase the use of Bitcoin as money. It's just going to maybe pop the price, or it could even be like a buy the rumor, sell the fact kind of thing. Really, like I'm not in the business of predicting where Bitcoin's going to go. I have no idea. I'm not like, if you, it's like asking me like what it's like to be on meth. I don't know, because that's what this market is. I've never done it. I don't know what the swings are like. I just look at this and I say this looks really dangerous. I'll buy a tiny little thing just to see where it goes, and if I strike Bitcoin or strike gold Bitcoin, then fine. If not, I'll lose it, and that's my attitude towards it.
Are you okay if we talk a little bit about China? What's going on there?
Sure. I'm not sure how much I know, but we'll see what questions are.
Okay, so basically we've had China somewhat collapsing under its own weight with the Evergrande situation, and it seems like Xi Jinping is trying to take more authoritarian control over the economy. Where do you think that's going to lead? I mean, I think I know your answer, being your Austrian background.
Oh, well, for Chinese history, I've read, and I highly recommend that your followers and everyone watching this read a book called Mao's Great Famine by Frank Decoder. He's a sinologist, and he really goes into deeply how the Great Leap Forward, 1958 to 1962, those 4 years, killed about 45 million people of starvation, and it was just I come from a Holocaust education, never again, this and that, and I see the same process is happening now. But that was 10 times worse than the Holocaust, than the Jewish Holocaust. The Chinese Holocaust was much worse in terms of just sheer numbers.
Yeah.
So do I think that could happen again? It could. You have all these Chinese ghost towns that just towns that there's nobody lives in and haven't lived in since maybe 2011, 2012, when the massive buildings started after the previous housing collapse. So this is definitely going to collapse. The other factor that I just read about from Daniel Oliver of Myrmikan, he has a gold fund, and I highly recommend reading all of his stuff.
I had the chance to talk to him. What a brilliant guy he is.
Yeah, he's something. He's like on another level. He's my favorite guy.
No doubt about it.
So he was talking about how China's one child policy only just recently reversed. I think, I don't remember exactly when, but the chickens are coming home to roost or not roost, as the case may be. And now there's a worker shortage in these special economic zones, and the energy prices are making these factories less economical. And as the dollar falls, Americans are going to have less purchasing power. So you're going to have more of a cascading event in China, where these special economic zones, where the Chinese authorities basically say, do whatever you want, we're not going to bother you as long as you produce as much as possible. These are like big slave towns of just production that makes the West rich. So as they become less profitable to sell to the West, eventually they're going to have to sell to themselves, and cut the West out, or mostly the U.S. And that's when the real power shifts. So the power shifting to China, it doesn't mean that China is going to have an easy time of it, because they're going to have to adjust to being a new economic entity. And meanwhile, you have the threat of Xi Jinping. And I don't know how smart he is or how stupid he is. Maybe he understands not to go great leap forward. Maybe he doesn't. Um, but I wouldn't want to be in China right now, because even though they're set to become more powerful, um, the transition to that point is going to be very dangerous for the individual people in that country.
Yeah.
Militarily, there seems to be some tensions growing in the South China Sea.
Yeah, this I'm not really an expert on, so you might want to edit my answer out if I have anything to say. But what I'm thinking is it depends how much real money China has. Obviously, as America goes bankrupt, their military power is going to wane. And even on the micro level, if we take a magnifying glass and look at the American military, like what are they doing? They're making it woke, and they're I don't know what kind of crazy policies there has, and forcing medical procedures on them that they don't want. So a lot of them are quitting. The best of the American military is probably leaving, and they're left with woke zombies. And
Yeah.
so it's
a tragedy to see. It really is.
Yeah.
Going back to China, what about the Belt Road Initiative? What impact do you think that's going to have on the global economy?
A manipulated economy like China's, and it is very manipulative. If you look at the Chinese money supply, the yuan supply, it's much more vertical until 2020 than America's was. So they're in the same business cycle that the U.S. is. So you never know what projects are being funded by just speculation and just free money flying everywhere, and which ones are actually because of demand. So, I mean, China has a history of building humongous things that are useless. So, like the Great Wall of China.
Great Wall.
Great, the Egyptians did it with the pyramids. They're sitting there, standing. It's great, wonderful. Like, okay, but like, what are you gonna do with them?
No,
so there's
like the guy who spends
like
$1 million on a car to restore it and he never drives it. It just sits there. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah, well, at least he enjoys restoring the car, and it's his property, and he gets that pleasure from it. But who knows if this road is going to be a road to nowhere, like a bridge to nowhere, or like you have stories of overinvestment and these crazy central plans, from biblical times, from as early as the authors of the Bible, like Tower of Babel. That's the first central plan, communist, crazy, cheap money built slavery thing. And God had to break it up. But you don't have to believe it historically. The message is don't do that. Not a good idea.
I always think like central planners they don't get it. They think that even like if there are 10,000 of them, that 10,000 people can outthink the billions out there in the free market, working out of their own self-interest.
Yeah. Well, when you have 10,000 central planners in a room, and they're really good at it, they all want to get to the top, and they get to the top by cheating and stealing and whatever they're doing. But if you have 10,000 businessmen in a room, they all want to get to the top, obviously, but they can only do that, assuming they don't partner with the thieves. They can only do that by being the best that they can instead of being the worst that they can. So yeah, central planners don't get it because they're the thieves of society. That's how they function. That's what they do. That's why they're scary, because I can't understand their motivations. I see someone who wants to take over the world, and I'm like, what do you want from that? Like, why does that make you happy? And I can't understand it.
I often wonder if it's that they hate themselves so much that they feel compelled, and they look at everyone the same as them, that they feel compelled to dominate and control everyone else.
Yeah, I guess it's just the way they distract themselves from their own pain, but we all do that to a certain extent. It's just theirs is funneled into a particularly dangerous direction.
That their greed distorts their perception, and they really begin to believe that they're smarter than everybody else.
Yeah. I don't even know if they think that other people really exist, or that we're just like figments of some game that they're in that they have to play. And I guess it comes back. It reminds me of that speech in what's it called, in Atlas Shrugged, John Galt's speech. I think it starts with the words like existence exists, And you could see that as like the typical annoying Ayn Rand gammery statement that's just superfluous. But like you look deeper into it, yeah, existence exists. You could say you could interpret that as like, yeah, other people are actually on this planet and they have lives and they want you to leave them alone. But
That
these
reminds me
people
of
don't
the
get
other
that.
famous Rand quote of, "You can deny reality, but you can't deny the consequences of reality."
Yeah, yeah. She had her issues, but she was good on some very basic stuff.
Yeah, she nailed the obvious.
So
Yeah.
in terms of the consequences, what do you foresee in with Europe's energy issues? What do you foresee as the consequences there?
I think energy prices, they're going to go up. They're going to go up and down. They're not going to go straight up. Nothing goes straight up until the very, very end. We're not at the very, very end yet. So, I mean, I do see um, natural gas prices going up and then maybe going down to some support and then immediately going up again. But it's going to be volatile as the supply chain and the supply of natural gas peters and goes up and down. But yeah, there's going to be more cascading failures and more factory shutdowns until the monetary system is fixed. How much longer is this going to take? Um, I don't know. I don't see it more than a year, but I've said that for the past 2 years, and maybe I'm wrong. But you just got to be prepared, knowing it's coming. And like for my family, for example, I've been speaking the praises of stocking food up for years, but uh, just last week was the first time we actually did it. We had this humongous order that came in from one of the major supermarkets here, and we bought the maximum of whatever we were allowed to get, because again, from my conversation with that food importer, like he's telling me the supplies are getting lower, and I'm seeing evidence of this in Sweden and all throughout Europe, Sweden specifically. I saw this note from a retailer that supply was running out. I think it was called Gastro Foods, I think in Sweden. So yeah, it's happening in the UK also, and Brexit is making that worse. So in the UK, you have a combination of crazy regulations from a new political regime of Brexit, plus the direct financing of the debt by the Bank of England. So yeah, it's gonna get worse. I'm not going to trade it, but I'm going to prepare my own family, and I advise that people do that as well.
So there are rumors that Russia and China are both hoarding precious metals. Uh, What implication does that have for the global economy going forward if they're the only
Uh,
ones sitting on them?
I don't think they're the only ones sitting on them. I think we got a lot of private people in the U.S. There's a good gold bug community in the U.S. that are also buying gold and silver. Um, so in some sense, that's better. I mean, you want, and at the end of this, when this is all over, you want most of the purchasing power in the hands of private people, not in the hands of Putin's central bank and Xi's central bank. So I don't want China to have gold, but then again, the advantage is if they have gold and they're using gold to buy things, that gold is going to have to leave. That's the beauty of gold. You can only spend so much of it until
Yeah.
you're out.
Yeah.
You can't just keep printing it until everybody wakes up and stops it through a
As we just
hyperinflationary.
talked about, the big governments like that like to do big projects like the Tower of Babel and the Belt Road.
Yeah, yeah. So with Russia, it's not as much of a secret because you can see their gold reserves have grown with their money supply, and I'm not sure if Elvira Nabiulina is still in charge of the central bank. But yeah, I would rather more gold be in the control of Russia than be under the control of China. Uh, Somehow, even though I don't think Putin is a great guy, I think he, coming from the KGB, understands that communism doesn't work. And I'm not quite so sure if China really gets that yet, even though they've had extreme problems in the 50s and 60s. I don't think they get it.
No, I understand and I agree with you.
Mhm.
There's some estimates that China has over 8,000 metric tons of gold.
Could be. I really have no idea.
So you're obviously you're stocking food, you're stocking precious metals. Is there anything else you're preparing for this calamity we see coming our way?
I got some survival straws for filtering water. I mean, I'm not like a crazy prepper because like when I try to think about all the stuff that I have to do, it just makes me nervous. So
It's overwhelming.
I'm yeah, so I do like a little bit, and maybe it's not enough. Maybe I'm not going to make it through. Hopefully I will, but I'm also a religious guy, and I turn to God when I feel unstable, and that's what I'm doing now almost every day because I'm fighting another battle with this school or that school of wearing certain things on my faces that I don't want to wear, and yeah, it's just a constant grind,
Yeah.
and I just hope that I'll have enough purchasing power to help people and not be threatening to anybody, and hopefully the people come together here and realize that all this is not their fault, it's the government's fault, and free themselves. So that's all I can say. I don't know what's going to happen. I just pray that it'll all be okay.
Just out of curiosity, for my own curiosity, have things changed there considerably since Netanyahu wasn't reelected?
No, there's no political differences between anybody here. It's all just the same blabber nonsense. It's the Israeli political system is basically try to make the people fear something really, really as hard as possible, whether it's the Arabs or COVID or whatever it happens to be. Just push that fear, or the ultra orthodox. Sometimes they come out, they come out against them, whatever sector it is. Like, let's just like make these people demons for a while, and then try to make them vote for the people that'll take care of the demons. So right now it's the pandemic, and it's going to kill everybody. It's going to kill the children. So we got to. It's just nonsense.
Going back in history, Rafi, we went off the gold standard in the States in the 70s. I mean, we really kind of started doing that before then with the watering down of the actual silver currency. So we've actually been talking about the collapse of the dollar for many, many years. I myself got into this this whole space in terms of my interest back in the late 1990s, kind of using the same arguments and stuff. But I believe today is different. Would you agree? Like, things have really changed.
Today is different in terms of I guess the acceleration of everything. In order to see this back in the 90s, you really had to understand a lot about money. So it was the people that got into the gold market in 1999, 2000. I was still in high school back then. I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
I remember my earliest thoughts about money, like probably like when I was 6 or 7 years old, and I found 1,000 shekel bill in my father's drawer. And I was like, Abby, you have 1,000 shekels. And he's like, no, it's not worth anything. And it collapsed in 1983 when you were born. So, and then I was like, well, why is there still inflation? He's like, oh, inflation is how you grow an economy. And I'm like, this doesn't sound right. And so, yeah, and then it never sounded right to me. But now we're at a point where even the common man in the street is saying, like, this isn't right. This doesn't make sense. Like, our grandparents used to say money doesn't grow on trees, but it grows on a printing press. Like, what? It's more reasonable that it grows on trees and it doesn't grow than it grows on a printing press. At least the tree, you have to like feed it and water it. Printing press, you're not gonna do anything.
There's some labor behind it.
Yeah. So yeah, now it's like the common man is waking up to the fact that this doesn't make any sense, and because you see the money supply starting to go vertical now, and once it starts going vertical, it doesn't stop, because if it stops going vertical suddenly, you have a business cycle bust, and then you got to make it go vertical again. So yeah, we're nearing the end of this, and it's lasted 50 years. How much longer is it going to last? Not that long. I think the 50th year is the last one. There's going to be some kind of event where overnight we're going to see a change, like we saw in 1998 during the Asian financial crisis. That pretty much happened, and it started overnight, and then everyone knew within a day or two what was going on. Yeah. So look, when this happens, when this does happen and gold goes up like $500, $600 a night, and the dollar collapses to the floor 10, 15%, everybody's going to know exactly what's happening. You're not going to fool anybody.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to know, everyone's going to follow it, and that'll be the end.
You know, the biggest red flag to me that has happened is this whole emergence of this concept of the Great Reset that the World Bank and the World Economic Forum, the IMF, have been talking about. To me, that says, okay, central bankers know the gig's up.
Yeah, you mean the cooperation between the World Bank and the World Economic Forum and all these guys?
Yeah, well, they've been talking about this Great Reset where they're just going to reset everything.
Well, the irony is, yeah, there is going to be a great reset. There has to be, because this fiat system doesn't work, so you got to reset it. They're going to try to control the reset, but that's impossible.
Exactly.
Like their plans, the best laid plans of mice and men. These aren't even mice. Like they have power now, but when there is a reset, they're not going to be able to control it. That's not even close to possible. Like we want to fear them, or Klaus, what's his name? Klaus,
Schwab.
what?
Klaus Schwab.
Schwab.
Klaus Schwab. Yeah, Klaus Schwab. I think he was the son of a Nazi, or I guess like father, like
Rumor
son.
has it, yes.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people were. Um, but so yeah, these people, they're not that much of a threat. I mean, they are now that they have power, but when the reset that they think is that they're trying to direct actually happens, they're going to totally lose control of it. And the question is who has the weapons and who can use them, and which societies are going to stay together and which aren't. Uh,
I have to
so
say, watching the videos coming out of Australia makes me very trepidatious about everything. Uh, I'm astounded at what's going on down there. I really am.
that really took me by surprise, because before any of this happened, I'm like, well, I'm probably going to stay in Israel because I want to be with my people. But if I had to leave, where would I go? Maybe Australia. Like, no way. I'm not going to Australia anymore.
You know, it's funny. A lot of wealthy people prior to World War II saw it coming, and they all moved to the South Pacific to be safe. And boy, were they just wrong. So you just never really know.
Maybe Oceania would be good. Some kind of Pacific island.
Pitcairn Island.
Yeah, yeah, or the Azores, or some like obscure. I mean, Antarctica might be okay if you can eat penguin.
I'm curious, how is the debt issue in Israel? Is it of any major concern? Because obviously, you're familiar with what's going on in the United States. Europe is printing money hand over fist. I'm fascinated, with what's going on in different economies.
Okay, so Israel is pretty simple. The amount of debt doesn't really matter that much, because the entire currency system is based on the US dollar, because the Bank of Israel owns no gold whatsoever. So when the dollar goes, the shekel goes. When the shekel goes, it's all done. So yeah, Israel has a debt problem, but yeah, that's a problem. But what really is the problem is that it's tied completely to the dollar. We had a hyperinflation in 1983. The shekel died. That was the story that I told you before about the 1,000 shekel bill in my father's drawer. Then we had the new shekel. The only difference between the old shekel and the new shekel was the old shekel could be financed directly by the Bank of Israel, printed, just direct financing. Whereas the new shekel, they promised that they weren't going to do that ever again, and they would only do it through the bond market, secondary market, buying bonds in the second, just like the Fed does. So that stabilized
Right.
the currency for now, but it's all gone. It's all gone when the dollar falls, and that's the reality of it.
Is there a community of precious metals enthusiasts in Israel as well?
There isn't a community. There are isolated pockets.
Okay.
And there is a company that I've worked with, called iGold, that imports through a lot, but that's the only way you can. And they have high minimums, so it's hard to import. Somebody just sent me some silver as a gift, and I had to pay the VAT on it just to get it through customs. It was worth it, but it wasn't pleasant.
What is the VAT on precious metals there?
On silver, I think it was something like 25-30%.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, they're thieves here. That's what
They
they do.
really don't want their citizens to be wealthy, as most central planned economies are like.
I don't think it's so much they don't want us to be wealthy as they want to be
Silver
wealthy.
coins could be great holiday gifts.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rafi, we want to thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you joining us today. As always, it was just a great conversation, and we look forward to having you back.
Okay. Oh, can I add something about my service?
Yeah, of course, please.
Please,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. So I'm the author of the Endgame Investor, and if you're interested in the Austrian view of what's going on and sort of digging under the monetary hood and seeing what's happening from a positivist Austrian analysis perspective, then I'm your guy. I do a little bit of trading, and but really it's more of it's an intellectual service. People who want to try to see what's going on from underneath the hood.